Hey Haywood and Guthrie, I wrote you a song. It's a weapon of words, it's a century long. And I know my song well, and I'll sing as I'm able. And I'll sing it to you for a seat at your table.
Sitting by a river with my friend Thomas Francis. I have a chat about his music. Thomas is a folk singer based in Chicago with a rich history and some music that's catching fire. Thomas, can you tell me a little bit about what's happening in your music right now?
Yeah, a part of the fire that you're talking about, I've been, of course right now I'm writing folk songs, so I've been penning protest songs, and those are topical songs related to things that are going on in our world, and so to put it simply, I've been writing some of those, and I guess I've been writing them well enough to where people have been enjoying them, and the internet's a crazy thing, and so that fire is growing a little bit, you know. So but that's mostly it. I'm writing songs, I'm putting them out there, and people they seem to enjoy them. So
you've been writing about burning contemporary issues like the devastation of Gaza, the shooting in New York City. Comment on how that's been showing up in your music.
You'd like me to comment on that? Yeah, I mean those bigger events are showing up in my music, and I'm trying to write them as I see them, and then also write what I think how other people are perceiving these events, and mostly trying to walk a fine line of trying to interpret them, and I'd probably even say try to sing about them from the underlying spiritual dimension of it, and again, like the things with the shooting or things that are going on in Gaza, it seems that there are non-negotiable aspects of these things that no one can agree are good things, that they're hard things to witness and to look at, and of course many people have many things to say about them, but in the tradition of folk music and of course early Dylan, I try to write them in a way that says something about what's going on, and so they're making those things are making their way into the songs in that way, and I think I'm trying to do it in a way that I think needs to be done now. So
hundreds of thousands of people are discovering your music now as you write about these contemporary events, but your music has a long story. You've been working. Can you tell us some of the origin stories of your music?
Yeah, I could do that. Well, I've been a musician my whole life, and I started playing electric guitar, and I was in a handful of different bands, and during that time there was a lot of post-rock music, and I was really into that. I liked the element of music being powerful without words, paradoxically, since now I've switched and I use too many words, but I used to be really drawn into that element, and how I got started as a songwriter, I knew somebody that took my music equipment as on tour with them, and then they never gave it back, and so I needed something to play. I wanted to play, and then so I went and got myself an acoustic guitar, and I started writing songs, and they were just honest songs. They were regular songs, and the lyrics were simple in their poetry, and then someone said, "Oh, you sound a lot like Dylan," and I didn't know who that was at the time, and so they gave me a record, and I listened to that record, and then it kind of set me on a trajectory of a vocational path of trying to write good songs. And so I've just immersed myself in his writing and the folk singers before him, and of course many different artists. But I've been living in that space for a long time, and writing hundreds and hundreds of songs that I haven't released. I've released a couple EPs that I've taken off the internet, but yeah. So I have a big body of work, and then I'm just now starting to share that with the world. So
one of the features of your work is that it has this live wire, unhinged fury, but it has a gentleness and a groundedness that is profoundly disciplined. Tell us about some of those early songs and where that paradox of unhinged energy combined with patient grounding comes from.
Yeah, I think in songwriting and in music, you know, that the element of that kind of spiritual, emotional aspect that is raw, I think keeps songs alive to some degree, and a lot of the discipline has, I think, comes within just trying to craft songs very well and be able to, I think, communicate some of the ideas in ways that don't only rely on the emotional aspect and the rawness of maybe the delivery or the performance of the record. And I think that's what's strong about Guthrie's music and early Dylan's work, of course. And so I think it's the idea of can you do things that are powerful in a punctual way, and that's been the craft of trying to get all of those things into a song, and not just overwhelm someone or not draw it out too long, and so make it concise and make it punctual, and also make it enjoyable. I think that's more of the craft aspect of trying to do these songs, and then of course paying attention to your own humanity and your own story and your life and the spirituality of other people, and trying to bring those things in ways that I guess have integrity. So maybe if that's something.
You mentioned your own story. You have a story that combines a lot of joy and family. You've got a story that has pain, addiction. What is the relationship of joy and pain in your music writing and the songs that you're sharing with the world?
Yeah. Well, on the topic of addiction and of pain, and my story, I come out of a history of serious alcohol abuse and doing the drug stuff, and so the deep end of a life like that is very, very dark, and you can get lost very quick, and a lot of people know that. Some of you might even know that, and if you know that, then you know getting out of that can be next to near impossible, and most people don't. And so to some degree I'm one of the lucky ones, but if you ever do get your head above water out of the depths of something that dark, you can't help but feel free and be joyful. And so the balance, I think, is that some of the darker elements I sing about are coming from a place that's true and that's real, and a place that I've seen myself, and I know people that have. And some of it's even so dark that I haven't found the ability, or to some degree the courage, to be able to pen them in songs quite yet, even though a lot of the characters and experiences are definitely always lurking, but a part of my own happiness and my freedom and my own service to my family and my own life. There's a place for things, and sometimes we put them in the past, even though we live with them. So I think the joy and the freedom feels real, and the pain and the darkness is also real. And but I also sing from a place that feels free, and it feels free because I was once very much enslaved to many things, and I walk that balance, and I am happy, even if the songs don't sound happy, and you'll get happy songs, that's for sure, and genuine songs that are genuinely happy. And I think that's connected again to the music, the discipline. Getting sober and walking that path and getting yourself where you need to be takes a lot of discipline. And if you can manage that, it makes doing the music a little bit easier, because you can feel grounded and feeling somewhat stable. So
We could go a little further into that deep end of darkness. You once talked about a dream that you had in Dubai in a hotel room with your father. If you feel comfortable, can you share what that dream was and how that might continue to animate some of your music today?
Yeah, the dream, I was in the thickness of some of my, some of the drinking and the drug abuse, and I went with my old man to the Middle East. He was doing some business out there, and then we were in this apartment. It was like 14 stories up, and I remember he was off. I think he was in Abu Dhabi or something like that. And I was in this room by myself, and I had this sense that this was kind of the end of the line for me. I remember making the conscious choice that, like, in the morning I was going to, like, just jump right off this balcony, and of course, like we all have to, we all fall asleep. So I fell asleep and I went into this dream, and I dreamed that I was walking in this garden, and I loosely like to interpret it as something like the Garden of Eden, So it was dark and it was cool and it was quiet, and I was walking, and then somebody grabs me by the back of the waist, and then they throw me backwards. And I thought that they were laughing, like they were, making fun of me or something. But really, they were weeping, and they're crying, and they're holding me tight. And then they were just telling me that they wanted me to be, that they wanted me to live. And then I woke up from that dream, and it was powerful enough for me to, I guess, keep my head up and keep going. So I clearly didn't jump, So here I am. But so that was an interesting moment, I guess.
You thought that you were at your end, and then you dream of being in a garden with a friend who says, I want you to be laughing and crying. Say a little bit more about your sobriety journey and this fall that led into a new flight in your life.
Yeah. Well, coming out of when I decided to get sober, and I really meant it. I had a lot of people, not a lot, it was a few people, it was a handful of people that came around me to help me very quickly. And one person, he housed me for 2 weeks as I went through my withdrawals and my recovery, which were absolutely brutal. And he set me up on so many AAs and made me go to them and put me in this room, and I did the preambles, and I said things, and people were very kind. And I moved out of Chicago, and then moved home with my mom. And I was there for a couple of years. And it was very nice because I didn't have a license. I got my license taken away from me, and I wasn't on the internet. I was on a flip phone. I couldn't go anywhere, so I was very locked down. And someone offered me a job, and they offered me a job as a laborer. That's how I got in the trades. And they picked me up for work for just about a year and a half, and I was digging holes for a fence company and working as a manual laborer. And that's all I did for a long time. It's just kind of day by day and getting picked up, and of course I was writing songs in that way, but I was on lockdown for a little bit. My own choices kind of put me in that position, but that not being able to move around was a part of something that allowed me to garner enough strength, enough self-discipline, and enough courage to be able to walk on my own and do my best to ensure that my steps forward weren't going to damage me as severely as they had in the past. And so to say a little bit about that, it was just a slow moving, endless, grueling, timeless process of thinking that I was going to be, and I guess to some degree I am, but just a townie who was locked down, who made one too many mistakes, and there was no way out of that. And so that was a long season for me. And I came out of that slowly as I met my wife, my girlfriend, who became my wife, and around that time too, I began an apprenticeship as a carpenter, and I got 4 years of technical training under a journeyman carpenter, and was able to kind of advance my skill set that allowed me to stand on my own as a tradesman, and then be able to provide for my family now, my wife and my daughter. And so, and that process has been, that process up until now has been about 8 years. So, and I'm beginning my music publicly now, so.
There's something archetypal in being in that deep end of darkness, and then a friend helping you get sober, and then you dig holes for 18 months. Digging holes. A song that the world hasn't heard yet says heaven opens wide. And you mentioned the importance of spirituality to you already. What does it mean to you that heaven opens wide?
Yeah, I think what I mean by heaven, I think maybe I mean something like a literal heaven. By heaven, I think I just mean beauty and goodness, and if there's a God, that God is looking at you and he welcomes you and he sees you. And I think when I say heaven opens wide, it's something about pretty much just being a nobody, and a nobody with a tough past and a lot of pain, and like everybody else, and that heaven opens to you. And I felt that, so, and I think I've experienced that a little bit, for myself. So I think that's what I mean, that I guess you have some kind of significance, even if you're very insignificant, like we all are. And I think what I mean by heaven opens wide is that you can be precisely where you are, as you are, who you are, be called, I guess, to some degree to be more than what you are, but you can be quite at home, just as you are, almost just like this moment. You can be at home. We're home here. When you can't drive around, when you have very little, when you've demolished your own reputation, when you've weakened yourself to points where you don't actually believe you can move past them, that I don't know, something is welcoming you, I guess. So.
Part of your story is studying philosophy, and you just named a paradox that you're a nobody, you're small, but this divine presence sees us and welcomes us home. What's the role of paradox in your philosophy and in your music writing and in your songs?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. I have the belief that we're here for some reason, and that wherever it is that we are, we have some ability. There's the resources, I guess, around us for us to be able to be in tune to our lives being good where they are. And in one practical sense, I guess, as being a musician, there's always been some temptation to go to another city or to go to some art hub, or to be among people who are doing the things for music. And I've always had this tension with me about, I guess to put it simply, why am I here if I was meant to be somewhere else? And so I guess in some stubborn way, I've always wanted to be right where I am and make the most sense of it. And I've been one of the lucky people that has actually experienced the most growth and the most beauty and the most transformation and significance, and being right where I'm at, but also desiring to find it where I'm at. And I feel very special in that way. And I feel at home, I guess. So I'm meant to be here.
You're smiling. Say what you're feeling.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. My songs, they of course they talk about a lot of the trouble that's in our world, but I never mean to write them in ways that want to communicate that I'm trying to put the world down in any way, or try to put people down in any way. I don't want to put people down. I love our world, and I love humanity, and I don't want to be in another place. I want this place, this air, and the people that are around me, and want it fully and completely, and as it is, I guess. And so when I say I'm meant to be, I think just I'm one of the lucky ones that is still around, and yeah, and I guess I'm meant to enjoy it, and I'm meant to love it, and I say that in a defiant way, knowing that it's been the other way around. So
I want to explore that word, defiance. Your music combines this paradox of deep seeing of the trouble, as you called it, but also this wanting to be here, to breathe this air, to feel at home, here and now, fully and completely. And your music has a protest quality, but there's no sense of rejection in it. There's this kind of non-dual awareness. What does defiance mean to you?
Well, I think defiance means to me is that I think fundamentally, first and primarily, it's like we have the world, and then we have people, and then we have the world and all of its people, and we're stifled and squeezed by people who play very serious and very silly and very sad games, and we all suffer because of that, and that suffering compounds very, very quickly. And so I guess to put it simply, it's like, you're not your money, you're not your house, you're not your things, you're not your songs, you're not your fame, you're not the views, you're not your tattoos, what you wear, what you make, what people say about you, all those sorts of things. You are what you are as you are, and the question is whether or not, let's say, if a homeless person, or a homeless person that I've met and a homeless person that I love, someone so insignificant, if they have less value than the people that we say have the most significance, and we could say Bob Dylan or Elon Musk or Donald Trump, and there is, we don't know where it's written, if these two different types of human people have the exact same value. But I think when I mean defiance, I think it's about staking a claim and holding, I guess to some degree, a kind of sign that says, like, human people matter wherever they are, whoever they are, and we primarily matter. And I don't know. And I like to point my finger and say something to people who are playing silly games and making it very difficult for the rest of us, especially when everything that we have has been given and is given freely. And we belong in a garden, and some people just like to build cities, that sort of thing. But anyways.
You mentioned that we're here in the world, and we have people. Who are some of your people?
What do you mean?
Yeah, who are some of the formative presences in your life? Who are some of your most important presences now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say, of course, this interviewer is one. You know, he's done we've known each other for a very long time, and so, and I knew, I guess it was my antennas that I knew right away that you had the type of integrity, even if it wasn't completely and fully actualized over the course of the career that you've had and the life that you've built. Some younger version of me was able to sense out very quickly that you were somebody that I could trust, and even if there were things that we didn't agree on, or I didn't manage enough time to be able to think concretely about some of the things that you were talking about, that you as a person was somebody that I could trust and pay attention to and listen to and learn from. And so your steady work has always been I guess, these kind of floating, what are the lifesavers, when you're out at sea. Sometimes someone throws you something, you can hold on to that for a little bit. And my mom has been one. My mom and my grandma. My grandma is not educated. She can't read and she can't drive. And I've never heard her say anything philosophical, but I've heard her say very deep things by telling us and the family that we're good and that we're beautiful, and that she loves us. And she's been somebody who's very steady and very much alive, but she's also steady in a domestic sense. And I don't mean that in any reduction of who she is, but she's been able to be somebody to me that exemplifies someone being so human without acquiring any of the social capital that can determine whether or not this person is important. And so she's a life force, I'd say, for me. My dad, even though he's gone, he comes from poverty, real rural poverty, and he's the one who really showed me how to work and to be able to accept a lot of discomfort and to challenge myself by stepping out into the unknown. He was a sailor, and I'm not surprised that he's gone, because I guess there's a lot of unknowns he's willing to step into, and that's caused some trouble, but very much a part of him. And so he's a risk taker, and so he's shown that to me, and so I'm trying to appropriate that into my own life and taking risks, and I've done that, and that's a part of my story. My wife's family, who I married into, they're a good family with sound structure. They love each other and they're respectful, and they're working class, and they have simple and good lives. That their life is, what they've built is like a flower, and it's a flower that survived because they've tended to what's around them, and it completely shows. And when I met them, like I guess when I met you, right away I knew that I could trust these people, because they were good. And so those are some of them. There are a couple of others. There are a couple of craftsmen and carpenters that I know and I've gotten to interact with in my career that do absolutely beautiful work, and they're just so committed to the craft and doing things right, and correcting mistakes immediately, and putting in the work to the details no one will ever pay attention to. And they've helped me quite a bit. Not shy away from the detailed work. I worked under a carpenter that taught me that better than probably anybody probably ever will, to get in there and keep working it and pay attention to the details. So he's been an important figure for me. And then there's a roof framer out in California who's maybe you wouldn't agree with this, but he reminds me of me a little bit, and but his attitude toward the craft is something that I think is pure. And so I got connected with him, and he's a badass dude, and he's a good dude. So yeah, so those are some people. I'm not crying, it's just windy out here.
We'll get back to the trades.
Yeah.
You just said that you see all people as equal, from your mother, your grandmother, your father, tradesfolk you work with. You also mentioned Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie. Could you talk a little bit about these kind of formative musical influences that are part of your lineage and that you are continuing but also expanding today?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the people that I've mentioned are very much a part of my world, and they're minus, of course, like Guthrie and Dylan and the bigger figures, but the people that are informative to my own life, that they're all of them to some degree all exemplify a kind of a deep humanity, but a peculiar kind of excellence, and it's an excellence that's achieved that isn't always recognized. It's like the just trying to do something well because you can, and we're able to do that. And I think how that's connected to what I want to do as a songwriter. Of course, position my songs as closely to Guthrie's, to Dylan's as I can manage, I guess. But also bring in these elements that are totally human and totally real. And yeah. So.
Is there a tune from Guthrie or Dylan or another that's been especially meaningful for you?
I probably know too much of Dylan's work, I think, for one to hit me or whatever. And then for Guthrie, I wouldn't say that there's one particular song, but I think it's kind of the spirit of what they're doing and what they're able to communicate about what's going on, or about small things and significant things, like and big things, and how they're doing that with song. And of course, the ability to do that and to manage that is to be someone, I believe, is just somebody who's paying attention and just looking around. And so I'm a part of the lineage is I think simply I'm just doing that. I'm just looking around and then trying to write something about it, and then I'm just fixated in making sure it's a song, an actual song, So, which is the hardest part.
Part of where you're looking around is on a work site, it's on a roof, it's on a frame. Talk about the role of carpentry and craft in your songwriting and how that flows in and out of the music you're making.
Yeah. I think one practical aspect is that I think there are parallels when you're trying to work any kind of craft, and I think the trades is very helpful because within carpentry, of course, you can make judgments about what is beautiful, but to be able to build a building or to trim a house or set a door, there are concrete rules, and we conform to those rules to make sure that things are working mechanically properly. And also, these are ways that this is kind of a language that we can speak, so that carpenters we don't know, or carpenters that speak another language, I've worked with Polish crews and all Spanish-speaking crews, that we can understand one another. And so there's rules in carpentry, and so that helps me make sense of it. And like songs, there are rules to songs and there are rules to songwriting, and I think one of the parallels in bringing this aspect of carpentry into songwriting is it helps discipline the song and give it structure and make it make sense. Other aspects of carpentry, I think, along the lines with music, is that when you first start as a carpenter, you can be drawn into all of these beautiful elements, whether it's a complex roof or it's a big mansion or it's putting up some beautiful cabinets or being able to do the three-piece crown. I mean, I'm mentioning things that you kind of work your way up to being able to do these sorts of things, but you can be drawn to them because they're difficult and they're beautiful. But when you do it day in and day out, you learn that there's a whole messy world that is required, and actually some of the fanciest stuff in carpentry is some of the stuff that gets done the least. And so you actually have to I guess you have to be able to put up with a lot of the nonsense that comes with the craft to be able to do a little bit of these really cool elements. And I think that there's, to some degree, a parallel with songwriting, where you just kind of build in the motions and the modes of being able to do it. And yeah, there's dirty work in it, you know. There's a lot of work in it. There's a lot of work in carpentry, and there's a lot of work in songwriting. And taking that approach, I think, has been helpful for me recently, as I've been penning these songs and treating it like work. So.
You're talking about rules and also rhythms to carpentry, to songwriting. This next question is very personal, so take it where you want. But I know that you have a rhythm with your daughter that you practice at night in the mess, in the chaos of daily life that you return to. Could you talk a little bit about that ritual?
Yeah, it's my daughter is 2 and some change, so she's getting there. So if you have kids, and you know what kids can kind of be like. And but ever since she was born, when we put her to bed, when I get to put her to bed, or when I'm holding her, I've just about every night I've told her that she was good, and that she was beautiful, and that I love her, and that her mom loves her, and that God is close to her, and that God welcomes her. And I say that to her, just about every night. And I only say those things because I think they're true, and I think that every person should hear them. And but I want my daughter to know it. I want it to be impressed onto her person that she's these things. First things first, I guess.
We talked about some of the paradox of your art. You're a very earnest, raw person, but you're really playful, and there's a kind of jokester persona that comes through in some of your music, alter egos. Talk about some of that playful, holy fool aspect of the music you write.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, sometimes things are so bad, you can't help but say something and laugh about it. It's at least that's how it's been for me. And I guess, the alter ego stuff. Who knows where any of that comes from? I couldn't tell you. I think it just kind of happens. The doctors say that I'm crazy, so maybe it's a little bit of that. But any more questions?
I think every artist experiences the mystery of the creative process, where stuff just happens and you're not exactly sure where it comes from, and some people think you're crazy.
Sure.
Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, that one's tough, because it's I guess if you do art, then maybe or if you write a book, or you're doing a lot of writing, you're inside of a world that you can kind of lose touch a little bit, and I think that's just a part of the process. And I'll be honest with everybody right now, I can't tell if I'm crazy or not. So I know I'm in pretty deep, and so I'm sure there's an element of a little bit of craziness in there. Here's the guy, didn't some guy chop his own ear off? So he didn't need his ears. He's obviously a painter, so but so maybe he wasn't crazy. But anyways,
your music is deeply personal. It's deeply playful. But we started this conversation by saying that your music is really political. You're writing about a genocide, a murder. You say a little bit more of the politics of your art.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably safe to say that people probably around the world, the developed world, I guess, might have, there's some sense that you can't say what it is that you think. And so my art is to some degree political, because I don't think that any art can exist if that art isn't free, and that always runs the risk of people perhaps saying or doing things that other people might not like. But I think that freedom has to be there, and so I feel a lot of stress about some of the songs that I write, but I also believe that it's kind of in service of the whole project, and so that's a part of the politics of it, is just being able to say these things because I've written them and I sing them, you know. But yeah, I think that's the songs I've been writing recently have been political. I don't know if I want them to remain political, and I don't know if I'm ready, or if I even have. I think I talked about my politics about humanity, so I don't know where I side in terms of I don't know, one side or the other, you know. I'm right in between, singing to everybody, as everybody should be, you know. So I'm singing for my daughter. She's not political, you know, so I'm singing for her. I'm singing for my grandma. She doesn't really care what it is that you think. So that's that, yeah.
You just obliquely reference Kanye West somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
What's the role of hip-hop and rap in your music?
What's hip-hop? No, I'm just kidding. I like hip-hop a lot. I like lyrical hip-hop. I'm a big fan of Kanye West. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kendrick Lamar and a handful of others, just some 90s hip-hop artists that I really like. And they're using language to say, you know, quite a bit about a lot, so I like that aspect. And then just like on phrasing and images and things that are talked about, I definitely have there's parallels there, and the goal is really just to be a rap star, so we'll get there. We'll get there.
Dylan famously said, "The times they are a-changin'." How do you see our times changing?
Yeah, man. How do I see our times changing? I don't know. I think that they're changing in significant ways that we can't manage on how to articulate. And so there's not this one kind of moment to be able to interpret some of that stuff, but they're no doubt changing. But it seems like to some degree it's like a bunch of people are in a car, and then but those people are sick, so wherever it is that they're going, they're also simultaneously realizing that they're very ill and they need to get wherever it is that they need to get better. They just don't know where that is. So I don't think we're changing for the better, but I think that yeah, we're not feeling well, you know. So yeah, the time should change back a little bit. Yeah, I don't think the internet's helping anybody. Maybe it's helping a couple people, but
you just used the metaphor of a car. We're going somewhere, not sure where. A lot of us aren't feeling well. Where's your music going?
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully it's not off the edge of a cliff. You know, hopefully we can go, you know, somewhere where it's manageable. But I don't know. I mean, I'll keep singing about what it is that's going on, and I think if people continue to pay attention to it, it might go somewhere. But I don't know. Sometimes I anticipate that I'll have my music come up for a little bit, and then you know, maybe retreat into a wilderness for a little bit too, kind of do what I'm doing. I don't know. But what I do know is in the music world, which I have zero experience in, I have no idea how to manage it and how it all works in general, so yeah. But what I know now is that I'm writing songs, I'm working on a record, and I'm making a lot of connections, and I'm playing shows, and I'm getting the songs out there, and I'm bringing old work from an old catalog, and I'm penning some of the best stuff that I've written in a very, very long time. So I'm very excited about that, and yeah, so we're taking it slow.
We're almost done here. Can you tell me about a song that you're penning right now that's got something burning in it?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to write a classic, so we'll see if that happens. But there's a lot to write about, so there's a lot that's burning inside me, for sure. And yeah.
I want to give the last word, which will become another first word, to Bob Dylan. What do you say to old Bob?
What I would say is that yeah, I'm trying to walk in your footsteps, and so the ones that you left behind, so I know I'm not walking alone. And I guess if I could say anything, it'd be thank you. And the things that you risked to put on paper for many of us in the world, but they've spoken to me, and they helped point my life where it needed to be. So I'm just thankful, and I'm trying to do right by your songwriting, and all my songs I'm playing to you, so maybe I'll get a seat at the table. And but yeah, just thank you. So.
Thomas Francis, it's been just a special gift to share this conversation with you. The world has been waiting to hear your music without even knowing it. It's been speaking to my soul for 10, 15 years now, maybe longer. And I want to say thank you back to you. Thanks for being unhinged and disciplined. Thanks for being defiant and right here, right now. Thanks for continuing to be yourself. I want you to be.
Here's to the many more wars that leave nothing but bones. I'll be upon the mountain, dying the sword wood he left in the stone.